What's up, yo? Welcome to the Young Legends podcast, where we teach you the cheat codes to the game of life. I'm your host, Caption, aka Caption Red. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. And I'm really excited to bring you today's episode, which is my conversation with stand-up comedian Neel Nanda. Neel Nanda is a hilarious stand-up comedian that has performed all over the country with some of comedy's biggest acts. He's also performed stand-up on ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live and has acted and performed on Comedy Central's Adam Devine's House Party. He's also been a featured comedian on various shows on MTV, Amazon Prime, Hulu, and many more. Neel, what's going on, man?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm fantastic, man. I'm so glad to have you on the podcast. You know, I've been watching your videos and just enjoying your stand-up comedy, and I'm just very pleased to have you as a guest.
Oh man, thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate that one view of my very few views. So I appreciate you being one of
them. That's not true. But thank you for the false humility. And
you got to fish a little when you get on these podcasts, you know.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you got to lower yourself so that your host can build you up a little bit, or
lower the expectations, you know, just a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's an honor to have a Atlanta comedic a star who's out there doing the thing, and hometown hero, whatnot, and I'm just really happy for this. So the way I like to start my interviews is I like to just ask my guests to just share a fun story, an interesting story, a cool story, whatever story you want to do. So
for sure, man. So I was gonna tell you the story about how I got booked on Comedy Central when I was 24 years old. So a while ago. Man, yeah. I'm old as hell. So it was like 2013 or 2014, and I was producing a show in Los Angeles at the West Side Comedy Theater, and it had become like one of the coolest shows in LA. And Comedy Central reached out to me, and they asked if they could use my show for a night to do a showcase, basically take it over, book the lineup, all that stuff. And they emailed me personally because I produced the show. I was renting the theater, and so they reached out to me personally, and I emailed them back, and I said, yeah, you can definitely use my show if you put me on the showcase.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, nope. And I was like, come on. And they were like, well, how about this? You can host the show, and that doesn't count as you showcasing. You're just hosting it, and that's the best we can do. And I was like, all right, I'll take it. So I host the show, and I have like the best hosting set of my life. I absolutely I blow the roof off the place. I'm doing all my A material. I'm killing. Mm-hmm. And after that showcase, I was like, all right, cool. So tomorrow I'll have a meeting with Comedy Central, and it's going to be Key and Peele at 9:30 and the Neel show at 10. I'm like ready to, I think it's happening. It's going down, Mm-hmm. That's what's going on in my delusional 23-year-old head.
Okay.
And so I don't hear from them for an entire year. After that showcase, I met everybody, shook hands. It was fun. I did the showcase. I didn't hear from them for a year. They emailed me again, and they're like, hey, we're doing the showcases again this year. Could we use your show again? And I was like, only if you let me showcase. That's the only stipulation. And they were like, no. And I was like, come on, guys. Come on. That was the email I sent.
Yeah,
just 7 come-ons. Come on, guys.
That's great.
So they were like, you can host, but it doesn't count as you showcasing. And I'm like, oh no, not again. So I'm hosting it. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll host it. But I ended up getting a headlining date in San Francisco that night. So I had to email them and let them know that, hey, you're paying me $0. I'm getting paid actual like money in San Francisco. so I can't host a show. I'm so sorry. And they were like, well, where are you headlining? And at the time, I headlined a room formerly known as the Purple Onion. Have you heard of that venue?
I haven't. In San Francisco?
Yeah, so it was where Zach Galifianakis shot a special live at the Purple Onion.
Okay, yes, okay.
And so I was headlining that room. It was called something else. Doc's Lab is what it was called. But it was an iconic venue, and they gave me a headlining night. It was like a Friday night. And so I had to let Comedy Central know. I said, hey, guys, like, I'm headlining this venue. And they're like, you're headlining that iconic venue? I was like, yeah. And they're like, all right, fine, we'll get you a showcase. I was like, oh, wow, that's what did it? Not me asking nicely and doing well at the show. So I get back in town and I do the showcase. And again, I blow the roof off of the place. Like standing ovation, panties are getting thrown at me. Okay. I'm like, this is it. This is the time. Now I did the showcase. I'm on the radar. They're going to call me in for a meeting tomorrow and tell me that I run the network now. So, you know, I that's what's going on in my 24-year-old delusional head. It's a year later. And I don't hear anything from them for like a year. I heard nothing. And I was like, man, do I suck? Did I not? I mean, did they not count how many panties were thrown at me? There were so many panties thrown in my direction. This is unbelievable. I had to be a record. So I didn't hear from them for a year. And then I got a call from Adam Devine, the star of Workaholics. And he's, you know, the show on HBO that's awesome. I'm drawing a blank, but it's Righteous Gemstones. Great show on HBO if you haven't seen it. So funny. And so I got a call from him, and he's like, hey, man, I just watched your clip, and it was a no-brainer. I have to have you on my show. And I was like, wow. A year later, he sees my clip from that showcase, and he's like, you're coming to Hawaii. And yeah. So that was a dream come true. And yeah, he really vouched for me, and he really liked my stuff. And so a few months later, on my 25th birthday, it was right before, was it right after my 25th birthday? It was right after my 25th birthday, I went to Hawaii and filmed my first Comedy Central set for Adam Devine's house party. And it was a dream come true, being able to go to Hawaii, working with some of my favorite comedians, working with Adam Devine, who is beyond one of the most talented people in the business and one of the nicest guys on the planet. So yeah, that was how I booked it. I had to force them to give me a showcase. Sometimes, and that story, it's a weird story, but I feel like the moral of the story is like, you got to believe in yourself and you have to bet on yourself. And sometimes you got to ask, you know, not everything's handed to you. Comedy Central would have never reached out for me for a showcase. I wasn't on their radar. I don't think I had a manager at the time. I don't think I had an agent at the time. I think I was just doing everything myself, and I knew that if I got the opportunity, I could kill it. And it was interesting because for a year, I thought I didn't kill it. For a full year, I was sitting there like, I thought there was so many panties thrown at me. I thought I would get my own show. And unbeknownst to me, they were showing Adam the clips before they were casting the season. And yeah, he really liked my stuff, and I got to fly out there and do the show.
That's awesome, man. And it's kind of cool just seeing that you can be putting in all this hard work. And I mean, obviously you've been doing comedy since was it 19?
19. Sorry, when I was 19, 2009.
Yeah. So, you know, you've been putting in that work, you know, and this is a common theme that I hear from comedians, which is, you know, I just put in that work for 4 or 5 years and things started to open up. And then, you know, after, you know, the 10-year mark, things really opened up. But yeah, it's kind of cool just seeing like things could happen just, you know, in a snap, and all of a sudden you're, you know, doing some pretty big things. So.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it happened in a snap. I mean, that was 2 years of showcasing and then a year of waiting for him to watch my clip. And in that time, I had been doing, you know, like you said, I've been doing stand-up since I was 19. I consistently do anywhere between 200 and 400 shows a year, you know, especially pre-COVID. I'm not counting that year, obviously, but I'm not counting 2020. But even this year, 2021, I just did an East Coast tour where I did 42 shows in a month. So I'm back at it, and I think that's the hard work and the consistency. So when people say things like overnight or in a snap, it's not. It's never.
Right. Yeah, I'm just thinking that you were not with Adam Levine, and then you were with Adam Levine the next day.
I love that you call him
Whatever.
Adam Levine. Adam
Yeah.
Devine.
Adam Devine. I'm sorry.
I wish I was. Hey man, I might be more famous if I was with Adam Levine, man. If I was on The Voice, come on, dude. Record deal.
Yeah, indeed. You could be somewhere in the video and writing little quips in his songs and whatnot.
You know what it is.
Yes, sir. Very cool. So, I learned some things about you, and you were in was it an emo band? Am I using the right terminology?
Screamo band.
Screamo band.
Get it right. I was in a Screamo band for throughout high school and a little bit of college. And we were pretty good, actually. I show people that were into that genre, that were into that style of music. We're on Apple Music and Spotify if you want to check us out. I'm not even playing. Silence Before Sunrise. So if you're into that genre, you'll hear it and go, that's not bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very cool. And so how did you transition from, the Screamo world to the comedy world, which I'm sure there's some crossover, right? I mean, there's at least some crossover.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, stage presence was definitely one thing that I was comfortable with. I was just not nervous on stage because I've been performing pretty much my whole life. I've been doing music and all that kind of stuff since I was in middle school. So that definitely translated. But the reason I switched over was because I didn't want to rely on other people. When you're in a band, you gotta, work with 5 people's schedules. You gotta be like, oh, hey, we gotta pick up the drummer's thing. Oh no, his car broke down, so now we gotta rent a car and do this. And then, oh shit, I don't get off work till 5, so I can't make it to practice. And that just got overwhelming for me because I'm a hardworking guy and I like to just go and get things going. So when I started comedy, it was really freeing for me because everything depended on me and my schedule. I could work as much and as hard as I wanted to without having to rely on other people. So that's why I decided to do comedy because I was a big fan of comedy. I'd always been a fan of comedy. And I was writing jokes. When I was in high school, I wrote jokes. I had a full notebook full of jokes by the time I was in college. And I would tell my friends this. And then eventually they were like, hey, man, just go tell that shit on stage. And I didn't know you could do that. I thought it was just me, a dude writing jokes in a notebook, and Dave Chappelle. There's no in between.
Right.
So when I learned that there's an open mic scene and a way to get on stage in Atlanta, I started doing that when I was 19. I mean, I would have started earlier had I known that it was even possible.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and you've done quite well for yourself. Well, starting from a notebook and a college kid, so very cool.
Yeah, I've done okay. I mean, like I said, consistent hard work, and I always hear the phrase "work harder" or "work smarter, not harder," and I'm always like, why not both? Sure. Why can't you do both? I don't understand why people can't work hard and work smart. It's okay to do both. It's great to work smarter and to learn how to cut corners and how to get things done more efficiently. But also, you can work very hard at doing that.
Yes, absolutely. And then so you can be really prolific and put out some really good stuff at the same time. So yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. And speaking of which, you kind of tease a question that I like to ask, which is, what is a life hack that you feel like most people don't know, but you wish they did?
Nobody cares about you. Nobody. I mean, people, your family, your friends, your good friends, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your soulmate, your postmate, your whatever mate. They might care a little bit. But my point is, nobody's thinking about you the minute you leave the room. They're thinking about themselves.
Right.
So getting in your head about what people think about you is a huge waste of your energy. It's a huge waste of everyone's energy. And it's just going to slow down your productivity. You should focus on yourself, work on what can make you better, what you can do to be better at your job or at your as a person, as opposed to worrying about what everybody else thinks about you. And that's something that comes with age and experience and time. And I'll tell you this, the more and I don't even want to say successful because I don't even consider myself successful, because you have to believe you're not successful, or else I would just be chilling in a pool right now, you
Right.
know. So I would say the more success I obtain, the less I care what other people think. I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and I only focus on that. So
Yeah.
that's a life hack. Don't worry about what other people. The minute you leave the room, they forgot you were there.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you said, that comes with, just life experience. So when you were younger, right?
Mm.
It sounded like you cared just like we all cared when we were younger, right? More so than we
Yeah,
do now.
dude.
Um,
I started comedy when I was 19. Okay,
yes,
I cared for a long time,
absolutely.
and I was shit on. I was bullied because I was the youngest dude. I was doing comedy shows with dudes that were in their mid 20s, early 30s,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes late 30s, and I was
Sure.
19.
Right.
I was the butt of every joke. And so I had to develop thick skin. I
Mm-hmm.
had to, not let it phase me. It did phase me for a long time. For a long time, I got really emotional and really in my feelings, and it
Mm-hmm.
really hurt me, and I was really upset. But with age, I gained perspective. The perspective that I gained was, wow, how sad was that 35-year-old that was shitting on a 19-year-old? Like
Sure.
how shitty is your life that your night is, you know what, I'm gonna make this 19-year-old feel like shit. You
Right.
know what I mean? Which is
Mm-hmm.
why I go out of my way to be kind to younger comics, because I was one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm around like 22-year-olds and 24-year-olds and 20-year-olds, and that are just starting in comedy. And I was younger than them, and I was dumber than them. So I'm happy to give them some. I'm actually, this is an interesting story. I'm actually good friends with this guy. There was a I headlined a show in Minneapolis, maybe 2016, 17 possibly. I don't remember exactly when, but this young comic came to the green room, and he was like, "Hey, what's up, man? I'm a local comic here, Minneapolis. I saw your set on Kimmel. You're really funny." I was like, "Thanks, man. Really nice to meet you." And he goes, "Hey, man, I just have to ask, like, how do I go about getting booked on Kimmel?" Which is a
Oh, wow.
wild question. It's a wild question. This was like the third sentence this guy came out of this guy's mouth. Now, if I were that bitter 35-year-old comic, I would have told him off and been like, "Get the fuck out of here, dude. Like, are you serious?" But I was nice. I was like, "Hey, man, just keep working on your set, keep tightening." I gave him some advice and I helped him out. And it's so funny because now that guy he's a great comic. He's very funny. He's a guy in Minneapolis, and he's probably moving to New York or LA soon, because he is one of the best comics in Minneapolis. He's a killer, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a very good friend of mine. And we had a phone call the other day, and I talked to him, and I mentioned that, and he was like, "Dude, I cannot believe I did that." And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, you did that." And he was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "No, man, I get it. Like, I was that kid at one point. I was that 19-year-old who would go in the green room and be like, 'How did you get your own TV show?' I didn't know. I didn't know what was a dumb question to ask. So,
Right.
I was nice to them because I saw me in him. I saw, oh yeah, I would do something this dumb. So I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a dick about it. I was really, and we're buddies now. When he comes to LA, he stays in my place. When I'm in Minneapolis, I stay at his place. He's a good friend of mine.
Sure. No, I like the way that story ended because I was just like, that's pretty delusional.
Yeah,
And
but you
generally
have to
people,
be. You have to be delusional to be an artist. You
yeah.
have to have a level of delusion to be if you don't have delusion, you're not getting anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to believe that you deserve. I always say that take opportunities you're not ready for and rise to the occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's my whole career. My whole career has been taking opportunities I'm not ready for and then rising to the occasion because I believe in myself.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And that rising to the occasion, it sounds like, as you said earlier, incorporates a lot of hard work and a lot of
Right.
just
I mean,
failing your way to success. Right.
for example, like first time I did a college gig, I had to do a college show and my contract said I had to do an hour. I had never done more than 20, 25 minutes on stage
Mm-hmm.
before. And I was terrified. But you
Sure.
know what I did was I ran around, did every possible show, open mic. I got
Mm-hmm.
to the hotel of the next to the college, and I'm in the hotel room and I'm writing down on a giant artist canvas-sized piece of paper every joke I could possibly think of and praying that it was an hour. And I get on stage, I do an hour and 20 minutes.
Wow.
And I had a great time. It
Mm-hmm.
was a really fun show. I had a blast.
That's fantastic.
So
That's
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. Where you take an opportunity. I wasn't ready. If they said tomorrow you're doing an hour, I'm not ready. They said, hey, next month you're doing an hour at this venue. We're paying you such and such amount. And I said, yeah, I can do that. I have 1 month to prepare. I have 1 month to rise to the occasion, and
Mhm.
I did.
That's awesome, man. I love that story. Very cool. Do you do a lot of colleges, or is that
Not
really?
right now
Mhm.
because of COVID. I did prior to the pandemic. I did a lot of colleges, and yeah, I had a good time. I have no problem doing colleges, and I have no problem tailoring my material for a paycheck. I'm not
Yeah.
one of these. I'm not one of these elitist, or I don't even want to say elitist, but like purist comedians who are like, oh, if I can't tell my jokes, why is it worth it? It's like, all right, well then I'll take your 5 grand. If you don't want to do that, pay me 5 grand. I'll do it. I don't
Sure.
care. I'm not.
Mhm.
I can be. I can do a clean set. I can do a dirty set. I can do a corporate set. I can do a college set. I can do whatever you need me to do because that's what a professional does. They adapt to their environment,
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
an artist.
Yeah, absolutely. And that opens up more doors, right? Especially if you can, the clean comics, they're the ones that end up on TV because you got to be
Hmm.
kind of clean, or you have to be able to work clean in order to, be on the network, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome, man. Awesome. Very cool. So, in your comedy journey, you've, I'm sure you made, and just in life in general, well, let's not even talk about comedy, but just in life in general, you made some mistakes, right? What's a mistake that you've made that, because it sounds like what's that phrase? You're coming up all spades or whatever it is. It's like,
Right.
uh, Neil pisses excellence or whatever it is.
Right.
So, but obviously that's not the whole story. So, what's a mistake that you made that turned out to be something that you're glad that it happened, or a failure or a mistake that happened that
Hmm.
you're actually happy it happened?
I haven't. I can't really think of any mistakes or failures because I always take lessons from every failure or every
Sure.
mistake. So I don't even consider anything a mistake, to be honest.
Hmm.
There's some things I've done. I've auditioned for things and I've showcased for things where I wasn't ready or I wasn't right for the network or for the showcase. And
Hmm.
I still don't think those are mistakes. It's an art form. What we're doing is an art. So there are going to be people that don't like you. There are going to be networks and executives and places where you don't necessarily belong or fit. But I don't think those are mistakes. I think those are just trial and error. And those are errors, sure, but you have to learn from
Hmm.
those mistakes. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head where I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because even with my biggest bombs and my biggest uh, failures in this industry, I don't regret anything. I may have been dumb and young, and honestly, I've been really fortunate that I've taken on a lot of opportunities that I may not have been ready for, but with hard work, I've really been able to rise to those occasions. So off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that I would say was a mistake that I don't have any regrets, honestly.
Oh, wow. That's awesome, man. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the typical answer for this is, but I just don't, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything that I wish I had done differently or better or been more prepared for, because yeah, man, I prepare, you know?
Sure. Okay, so
Is that like a sociopathic answer?
no, it's fine. You know what? You're not the first person to say they don't have any regrets or it's.
I mean, of course I've made mistakes. Of course I've bombed on shows. Of course I've been in situations where like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be here, or like, oh, this isn't right or whatever. But I don't look at that as like, you know, I don't look at those as regrets.
Right. And as you talk, the phrase that popped in my head was, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, whoever you want to attribute that to.
You also miss a lot of shots you do take, but yeah,
right.
You do miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right. So how do you develop that mentality? Because it just seems like you just keep going for stuff, right? And maybe things that are, like you said, outside of your reach, and you're really forcing yourself to grow in order to fit that role that you, or that role or that opportunity that you have. So how does someone take on that mentality? And obviously some of it comes from child rearing and whatnot, but is there any tips that you could give to be like, oh, well, here's how to be more of a, a killer, assassin, whatever phrase you want to use in that regard?
So, I mean, that mentality of like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I mean, I've taken so many shots and missed. I submitted for a special for multiple networks, multiple times, multiple years in a row. And I thought that was the only option. But one thing that's really unique and really, really cool about the time we live in is with social media, you can do everything yourself. You can film your own special. You can put it out there. You can do your own podcast. You can film it. You can edit clips. You can put out your own stand-up. I have over 2 hours of material online right now. And you can build your own following without having to beg a network to do 5 minutes on their show or to do a half-hour special on their network. It's a really unique time where you have to roll with those punches and figure out how to do it yourself. We really live in a generation and a time where you can do pretty much anything you want yourself. You can't get on late night? Guess what? You can make your own late night show, put it on YouTube.
Sure.
You can't get on you can't get a Netflix half hour or an hour. Film your hour, put it on YouTube, put it wherever you want, put it on Facebook, put it on Instagram, put it everywhere. A prime example of that is Andrew Schulz and how he took his career into his own hands, and he really inspired me. He inspired so many. He maybe inspired too many people, but he inspired a lot of people. He inspired a lot of people to start doing that, and I commend him for that. I commend everybody who's doing it, because it's not easy to do what he did, and it's not easy to do it correctly and to build a following and to gain success through that avenue. It's very difficult. But if you do it, you're working 10 times harder than you are waiting around for a handout, waiting around for a network to go, oh, this guy's great, or a showcase, or just go, oh, this guy, yeah, we'll definitely put him on our network. And to be honest, in this day and age, nobody watches TV anymore.
Sure.
When I did Kimmel, I was so excited. I was like, man, all my shows are going to sell out. I'm going to have 5 billion followers. I want to be the most famous person on the planet. This is going to change my life. And then I started touring, and I would sell out some shows, and I would see tables of just older people, like 45 to 65. I'd be like, what the hell? Who are these people?
Sure.
Those are the people that saw me on late night.
Right.
And I was like, that's not my audience. That's not who I want on my show. So if you want to build your own audience, you have to speak to your audience. Your audience is using Instagram. Your audience is using the internet. They're using YouTube. They're using social media to find out where you are, to find out who's funny, to find out who to follow and who to be a fan of. So I don't even remember the question, but that is one thing that I've done. I believe the question was something along the lines of like, how do you keep going?
Yeah, and how do you develop that mindset of continually just going for everything?
I take every one of my it's interesting because I don't know if this is healthy. This is probably not healthy. But spite is a huge motivator for me. It really is, man. I've gotten so many rejections from networks for shows, for specials, for comedy, for all this stuff. And I go, all right, I'll show you. I'll show you that people like this. I'll show you that I can build a following, that I can tour, that I can, clubs that would never book me 5 years ago, I'm now headlining because of spite. Because let me show you, I'll build a following and I'll sell at your venue. I'll show a network, okay, you don't want to have me on this series? Watch. This clip is going to get 2 million views, which is more than that TV show gets. There's been prime examples of that. Even with my late night clip, it hit in the hundreds of thousands of views. And when I was putting out my stand-up every week, I was hitting anywhere between 200 and 500,000 a week, sometimes 1 to 2 million views.
That's awesome.
And that wasn't out of spite because, of course I had booked late night and everything, but that was just me going, okay, if you're not gonna let me do it with you, I'll do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
That became a big motivator for me. Is anytime I was rejected, I decided, okay, I'm going to show you what you're missing out on.
Right. Absolutely. No, that's great. And I'm sure at the end of it, it's no hard feelings, but it does feel good to be.
There's a couple hard feelings. There's a couple, mostly not. I will say this: 99% of the time, no hard feelings, but 1% of the time, there's a couple. There's 1 or 2. I could name a couple names that will never work with me, and I will never work with them. But 99.9% of the time, no hard feelings.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
0.1%. 1.1%. There's a couple. There's a couple hard feelings.
You're being honest, and that's what's important. So there it is.
I'll be honest. I'm not gonna lie and be like, of course not. I understand. You have your own. You want to pick your own artists and what you think works for you. No, man. There's 1% of hard. There's 1% of hard feelings out there.
That's all good. That's cool, man. That's funny. I feel like there's a bit there somewhere about the 1% of hard feelings. I don't know. So, what is it? You've talked about so many, important things that, young people should know. Beyond, I feel like I'm just, what is it? You're putting on a clinic as far as just helping people on their journey with, just life knowledge. What is like one more? I'm just gonna get as much out of you as I can as far as this goes. But what is one more like principle or habit that you have practiced in your life that has helped you to become successful?
Well, one thing that's interesting about being an artist is that a lot of people think that art is it's organic and that you just, when it comes to me, it comes to me. And that's true. That's true to some degree. But I always say if you want to make this a job, you have to treat it like a job. Mm-hmm. You got to work at it every day. I mean, I'm so fortunate that I can literally talk about this for maybe an hour a day and make a living. That's insane to me. But that's not all that goes into it. I write every day. I set a time and I sit down, I open a notebook and I write for hours a day because I'm very fortunate that I don't have to wake up at 8 a.m. and drink coffee and shower and head to my 9 to 5. You know what I mean? So I'm very fortunate that I don't have to do that. So I feel like I owe it to the art. I owe it to the job to put in that much work, to put in those hours. So I always say if you want it to be a job, you have to treat it like a job. Write every day. Go up every night. Open mic. Try new material. Push yourself. Experiment. Learn from your mistakes. Don't record. One big thing that I've done specifically in the realm of stand-up comedy is filming my sets.
Yeah.
I have about 400 shows filmed or so, something like that. I have so many. And what that has done is I've really been able to watch that back and see what I like and what I don't like about myself and about my material. And I've been able to grow from that because the tape doesn't lie. You know, you could be a little drunk on stage and be like, I had a great set. And then you go home and you watch the tape and go, I didn't have a great set. That was not good. And that happens all the time, dude. That happens to me all the time where like, I'm like, that was okay. And then I'll watch and be like, oh no, I was actually really fucking killing. That was great. And then there are times where I'm like, that was an amazing set. I can't wait to watch that. And I watch it back and I'm like, okay, some of that was amazing. Some of it, not so much. So, you know, that's a difficult thing to do when you're an artist, is to be self-aware. It takes a long time, and it takes a lot of, you have to see, you know, I'm very lucky that I live in Los Angeles. I've performed in New York and Atlanta and a lot of great cities where there's so many great comedians. I get to see what real great comedy is. And I get to compare myself to that and go, okay, I'm not there yet. Okay, that's what I need to work on. That's what I need to develop. So, yeah, I think if you, the big piece of advice I have is, if you want to make it a job, treat it like it's a job.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you give that sage advice and you are around, you know, people who have been in the business, I mean, I've seen, you know, you've done some pretty big things and you shared the stage with people who have been in the game for a very long time, and, you know, their names have been in bright lights for a while. What is something that you learned from some of the, you know, the OGs, the guys that, you know, they're just like, look here, young fella, I got something to tell you.
I don't really, you know, one of the things, I don't really talk to them or bug them and ask them for advice as much as I would when I was young and delusional. And when I was young, I would definitely do that. And one of the things that an OG told me, I believe it was Margaret Cho, said, keep your head down, keep your head down and keep working. And that stuck with me. But one thing I learned just from seeing them and experiencing this, being around these legends, these old legends, these OGs, for example, I did a show once in LA. It was at, you know, theater doesn't matter, but I'm trying to remember the name of the theater. It was a theater that doesn't exist anymore. And, man, I wish I remember the name of this. But anyways, it was a theater that was in between the Improv and the Comedy Store. It was in West Hollywood on Fairfax. So it was like around those clubs. So a lot of times big, huge names would drop by this theater. And I somehow got booked on one of these shows, and the lineup was bonkers. It was insane. It was like Neil Brennan, Dimitri Martin, Dane Cook, Bill Burr, Jay Moore, Sarah Silverman, Todd Barry, Eliza Schlesinger, Anthony Jeselnik, and me. You know,
that's great.
And I remember being at the show and I was watching all these incredible comics, and every comic that showed up to the show, Neil Brennan would show up. Hey, I got to go up next. I got another spot. Okay, Neil's going up next. Eliza Schlesinger. Hey, I got to go up next because I got another spot. All right, Eliza's next. So I kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed to the end of the lineup. And Anthony Jeselnik shows up right before my set. And he goes, hey, I got another spot, so I got to get out of here. Can I go up next? And the host was like, yo, there's only one more guy. Can you wait? Like, he's just going to do 10 minutes, and then can you wait? And he was like, no, I got to go. And I was like, shit, I got to close out this insane show, you know, of celebrities. I had to close out this show of some of the greatest living comedians in the world. And I watched all of them. I'm a big fan of all these comics, so I got to see their sets. I hung out with them in the green room. They're very kind. And so I go up after Anthony, and I will say that was one of the hardest people I've ever had to follow. And in terms of, he's a great comic, he's a great writer, but his pacing is so slow. He gets the crowd in this very slow pace, and he just hits them with these huge punchlines. And when I went up after him, I'm I have more energy. I'm more high paced. I have more high energy and I'm faster paced. So I went up. It was a weird energy shift. And halfway through my set, I started, first like 3-4 minutes, I was bombing up there. Sold out room. But one good thing was all these famous comedians have left, so none of them were watching me. So thank God that that happened. But I go up there, first like 3-4 minutes, I'm bombing, dude. And then I realized I gotta just slow down. I gotta take it slow. And one thing that I learned that night that I'll never forget was the reason that these guys are killing all of these people. If you think about it, Demetri Martin, Sarah Silverman, Bill Burr, Anthony Jeselnik, all these names I named, Neil Brennan, they're all slow. Their material and their delivery is always slow because they believe in their punchline. They know that whenever they get there, you're gonna laugh.
Right.
You know? And I'm rushing because I don't believe in myself. I'm rushing because I go, oh, I gotta get to the punchline. I gotta get them to believe in me. And I learned that night, no, a true professional, a true headliner, a true legend takes their time because they know that when they get there, everyone's going to be happy that we got to the same place.
Yes.
You know? So that was one thing I took away from that one experience. And I really felt like that made me so much stronger as a comic because I wasn't afraid to take that journey for the audience.
That's awesome, man. Oh, man. So at the end of it, you at least you walked out of there feeling pretty okay, it sounds
and
like.
the funniest part of it was, like I said, about like halfway through my set, I started doing really well. And it was funny, the booker only saw the last few minutes because he was lighting me. He's like, hey, get off stage. And then I got to the green room and I was like, I felt like, oh, yikes, half of that didn't work. And he was like, yo, you killed it. That's awesome. And I was like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Because if you saw the last 4 minutes, I killed it.
That's
you know,
hilarious.
and that's all that really matters at the end of the day is leaving them with, oh, that guy was funny, as opposed to like the first 5 minutes of like, oh, yikes, who is this guy?
Right. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Cool. That's a cool story in and of itself. Just, you know, even if you didn't have any takeaways, that's still a cool.
Yeah,
story,
that's true. That's true. And I'm always grateful for that. I'm always grateful for those nights where even if I don't get anything out of it, I'm like, oh, cool, I was on this wild lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, I know we're you know, kind of coming in on time, but I did want to ask you something that I heard you say in another podcast, which really spoke to me, where you had spoken about a person you knew who, you know, you just assumed that their parents beat them because you know, he's Asian, and that's
and
what
he's going
happens.
to Harvard.
Yeah, the one that went to Harvard. Yep. And so you said something that really percolated my ears, and which was, I realized that I'm going to at least try to not make the same mistakes that my father did.
It's
and I think
really not that hard. You know, it's
really?
a lot easier than you would think, man. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't have kids, so I don't know specifically. Sure. But when I was growing up, I just assumed that abuse begets abuse. Like if you're abusive, then you pass that on throughout generations. And I was talking to my friend who was an Asian kid, Korean kid in high school, and he was going to Harvard. And I said, "Wow, man, your parents must have beat the shit out of you, man. You got into Harvard? Your parents must have smacked the shit out of you. How did you get into Harvard?" And he was like, "No, my parents never hit me." And I was like, "Then how did you get into Harvard? Like, what did you got a superpower? You know somebody?" And he was like, "No, well, my father was abused by his father, and he vowed to never hit his kids." And I was like, "You can do that? That's an option?" You know, and so that day in high school, I learned that's an option. You can do that. I was always afraid that subconsciously I would repeat the mistakes because I thought that was just like how it worked. But you can break the cycle. You can learn from your parents. Your parents are human. They're human beings. They make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to be a perfect father. You're not going to be a perfect boyfriend. You're not going to be a perfect anything. But you can learn from other people's mistakes, and you cannot repeat those mistakes. It's really not that difficult once you're aware that it's possible, and once you're aware of those mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good that you realize that at a young age, because I think, if you realize that like last year.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I was speaking to one of my cousins who he's in a relationship, and he was like, oh, it's like difficult because, I keep doing things I see my parents doing, blah, blah. I'm like, you don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, yeah, we go to therapy for it and I work through it. And I go, yeah, but like, you don't have to do those things that your father did that you thought were inappropriate or toxic or unhealthy for your relationship. You don't have to do those things. And I told him this same story, and he was like, wow, you learned that at such a young age. And I was like, yeah, dude, but it applies now. It doesn't matter if you learn it now or then or whenever, as long as you understand it's not DNA is one thing, and your upbringing and your nurture or whatever is one thing, but we are our own individuals. We can critically think for ourselves. That's one thing that the one thing I really want to teach my future children, if and when they exist, is to critically think. That's it. Mm-hmm. I'm not always going to be right. Your teacher's not always going to be right. Your pastor or your priest or your pundit or whatever, it may not always be right. Mm-hmm. Critically think for yourself, learn, think, question everything.
Sure, absolutely.
That's one thing that I remember hearing George Carlin did a bit about that, about how like we don't need to teach children these things. We need to teach children to question everything. I was like, yeah, he's right. Question everything. Absolutely. And think for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's those are good thoughts. Very cool, man. Very cool. Well, I appreciate your time. I think that's a really positive and good note to end on. Before we end, I do this thing called freestyle rapping. Okay. So I'm gonna kick a little freestyle rap based on the interview. So here we go.
Oh yeah.
All right, here we go. Check. Come through, it's real. I'm talking to Neel. Yo, freaking Nanda. He will tell your mama and also your papa. You can change the story and have a new glory. That's what I'm saying. Bet on yourself. Come straight through and take up that wealth by asking yourself what you could do. It's all about self-reliance when you're trying. You gotta go out and build a thing. It's DIY. You just gotta try. Kinda like that one dude, Andrew, stand true, spit a freestyle, and yo, I'll come through. You gotta prove them wrong, write your own song, no hard feelings, maybe just a little. I'm coming up with riddles, and there are no failures, just a bunch of lessons. Yo, we keep guessing what we gotta do, take a bunch of shots, do that thing right now and do it non-stop. You got a bunch of things that you just learn, come through and earn when you just go and put in that work. You gotta be smarter, also you gotta work harder. That's what I say, so you could be sharper, put it everywhere. I'm talking about the internet. It opened up a whole bunch of things that we bring, and you gotta be coming extra kind for the young guys, cause they are not wise. You gotta help open all of their eyes. That's what I'm saying, really not unusual. You gotta be delusional. You gotta understand that you gotta believe in yourself. Receive that right now, and that's what I say. When I put the mic down, yo, I got a job, and that's how I treat it, and that's what I say. You go undefeated if you keep on going and you keep on showing. Spit a freestyle, basically I'm knowing. You gotta beat your head down and then keep working, and that's what I say. Just keep searching for the next thing and grow into it, and that's what I say with these words that I spit. Comedian legends, see me, he's my brethren. Spit a freestyle, and that's how we reppin' the A all day, and that's how I go. And that's what I said with a freestyle flow.
Yo, that was sick, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
That was sick, dude. That was like, that reminded me of Logic with all the inspiration right there.
Wow, okay. I mean? I'll take it, man. I'll take it. Logic.
I work hard every motherfucking day. That's what it reminded me of a little bit.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
sick, dude.
Thank you,
Hell
man.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. That was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure, man. I'm really pumped about putting this out there, and I'm glad that you're doing the thing. You're paving the way for all the young Asian, Indian American future entertainers, and also people in Atlanta, and
Hell yeah.
also just people out there in the world. So, real quick before we end, Neel, how do people connect with you online? Website, socials, the whole nine.
I would say Instagram is the best way. Follow me at Neel Nanda. I post all my clips, my tour dates, everything out there. You can also check out my website, neelnanda.com. It'll link you to my Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. I post there as well. But I would say my Instagram is the main source to find out where I'm at, what I'm doing.
Yes, sir. Okay, cool. I'll make sure to tag that in the show notes. And yeah, man. Thanks for coming on.
For sure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to have you. And I've got now I just got to pick what I'm gonna have as the sound bites because there's a bunch of them.
Oh, hell yeah, man. I'm stoked. All right, buddy.
All right. Thanks so
Good
much,
talking
man.
to you. For
You
sure.
too.
Talk to you soon. See you.
All right, so that's the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to hit that follow button so you don't miss future episodes. Now, if you know anybody who needs to hear this episode, please forward it to them. And remember that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So go out and take some shots. All right, that's all I got for now. Until next time, peace.